Greetings. We welcome you in the name of Jesus Christ to the book of Acts, continued here at Cloverdale Bible Way. And we have with us today Joseph Hildebrandt, a young man that has grown up within the church. I believe you've been here with your family close to 8 years, Joseph. And God's done some wonderful things within our families. And Joseph has been moved on by God sovereignly, individually. And it's just been a tremendous experience to see that what the Lord is doing to these young men. So today we're going to ask Brother Joseph to give a little bit of his background and how God dealt with you, Joseph, and what God's been doing over the last few months with you.
Well, I was born and raised in a Christian family. Like my background is like way back in the message. My grandparents were some of the first believers in Saskatchewan, which I came from 8 years ago. We moved with our family to be in the church school here.
Okay.
But like, as I grew up, I always had a desire to serve God, and I had a very high respect for ministers and missionaries. And I just always had a burden for missions, even like just as a little kid running around. And when we moved here, we went into the church school here, and we're just always in devotions and stuff. So I just kind of grew up in that kind of godly atmosphere, right?
Right.
And in church, I would always sit on the front row and praise the Lord until I was about 15 years old. And well, actually, when I was about 14, that's when I started to just have the normal struggles of a teenager. And I always kind of felt outside of the circle of everybody else, off to myself, and it just kind of got to me after a while, and like it just made me have a lot of ups and downs spiritually. So when I was 15, I just got sick of ups and downs, and I just left, like quit trying to be a Christian and quit serving God completely. So that was about 2 years that I wasn't serving God in any way. And in that time, a lot happened. I was just running from God, but I could still look back and point back and see where God was moving in my life, touching me, and so on. About 1 year ago is when God started to deal with my heart, and that was when the school went on a trip to Uganda. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'll go before that. Okay. Also 1 year ago, before the Uganda trip, I seriously had no desire to serve God, but I always had a strong respect. Like even when I was backslidden, I had a very strong respect for believers and ministers and my parents and family and stuff. So in that time, about a year after I first backslid, God touched my heart in a service, and it was my fault that it didn't I didn't stay in that experience because I didn't feed it at all. I just kind of let it fade away. Okay. And I just went back to being the way I was after about a week or so. But that opened the way for me to go to Uganda. I'd always had a desire to travel when I was growing up, but I had no desire to serve God, like zero, before that experience. So that experience opened the door for me to go on the trip with the school. So when we did a lot of preparation for the trip, and when we went on the trip, we were staying with believers, and I saw God in such a simple way. Like their faith in God was just so basic, but it was so effective. And it just really spoke to me. Wow. And like while traveling throughout the country, we went to one church, and there was this little Sunday school, and they sang a song for us while we were there, and it was How Deep the Father's Love for Us. And from that time till the time God saved me, I could not sing that song without my eyes tearing up. Wow. So in church, when they'd sing that song, I just wouldn't sing because I didn't want to break down or anything. Right? I didn't want to give in or anything. So I'm thankful that God just opened the doors for that stuff like that to happen. Right. I can look back and I can see how God gave me the opportunities that I will have needed and will need. working on the school building and stuff like that is just, he's been so gracious to me and given me so many opportunities. Like, I just can't believe I didn't see it then.
Right.
It just wasn't my time. But after we came home from Uganda, and I just kind of let what God had spoken to my heart just kind of like settle in the background.
Okay.
Lived my own life. But I just went living on life for about another 5 months, and then we came to summer camp in August.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting in our dorm room, and my whole cabin had been touched by God in the first 2 services. So I think that was like the second night at camp, and everybody in the cabin, except for, well, some were asleep, but most of the cabin was sitting around in a circle in the lounge area,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about God, and I was just kind of sitting on my bed off to myself. I didn't want anything to do with it. I still didn't have any desire for God.
Right.
And I had Brother Ben Dingwall for my counselor that year.
Yeah.
With Brother Kyle, and Ben was up with all the other campers, and he was talking with them, and finally I got bored of just being by myself, and I went over and I sat on the couch, and he was just starting to go around asking everybody what they expected at camp. They're like, "Oh, great! I'm not gonna get up and walk away now. Like, they just look stupid."
Yeah, right.
So I just sat there, and when Ben came to me, he's like, "Well, what are you expecting out of camp?" I said, "Nothing. I don't want anything. I don't have a desire for God."
Mm.
And he just told me straight. He's like, "That's very stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just the kind of relationship me and
Yeah,
him
yeah,
have.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we can talk very straight to
Okay.
each other." And he told me, "That's very stupid. Like, the very least you should do. You have an opportunity to ask God for something. You're asking for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, the very least you should do is ask for a desire." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So, like, even though it's like the most insincere request from God, like, just give me a desire for you. I didn't even like really mean it, but even that little prayer, God answered that prayer.
Wow.
And over the period of the next 2 months or 3 months, by the time November rolled around, I had the smallest of desires to serve God. And like, just when there was nothing,
Right.
nothing, God
Right.
took nothing and like put a desire there.
Right.
It's just amazing to me.
Right.
So November came around, we'd started school. John Wallner had come to school, and I'd seen his life and testimony and how God had changed him so much.
Right.
I'd seen Victor. Me and Victor used to be really good friends, and I just seen like this huge change in him.
Yeah.
Like, we were friends when we were little kids, and I just watched him go away, and I watched him come back. Whoa, what changed him,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
And all this time I was still in the church school, and one day on November 7th, I was sitting in a study block with Sharon Gindo and John Waldner. And Sharon had been going to some of the SFU meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just sitting there. I was doing something, I can't remember what, but she just dropped the question. She's like, "Joseph, why didn't you come to SFU tonight?" She's like, "Forget it. There's no chance. I don't want to go to church. Like, I didn't even like going to church on Wednesday and Sunday. So
Let alone.
why go Thursday night too?" And so she just kept pushing at me and like,
Yeah.
"Joe, you should just come. And I was like, "No, I'm not coming." And so finally, like, after she kept pushing for like a long time, finally I told her I'd tell her later. Just put it off for a while, right?
Yeah.
And so later on that evening, she was out doing her paper route, and she called me, and she's like, "So, are you coming tonight?" And I had told myself, I'd taken a whole bunch of homework home,
Yeah.
like for the next week, all my homework that was due. I was like, okay, I got to get all this homework done. And if I get all this homework done, I'll go to SFU. I'm like, very unlikely.
Yeah, right.
So she called me, and I don't know why. Like, I can't explain why I said yes, but I said, yeah, I'll come.
Okay.
And after I hung up the phone, I was like, I didn't get any of this hardly done at all. It just stuff for tomorrow. And it just was like, what? Why?
Mhm.
Why did I say yes? I don't want to go.
Right.
And so I called David Adamore, and he saved a seat in his car for me. And when I went to the church, I walked up to I walked up and I saw John Wildner standing there. He was just kind of like taken aback that I was coming, because he was in the study block and he heard me. I was like, no, I'm not coming. He's like, whoa, why is he here? And so we went to the meeting, and on the like when we got there, it was one of the mightiest outpourings of God I had seen in a long time. Like, I had experienced outpourings of God before I backslid, but there's something special, right?
Right.
And it just really hit my heart. But I wasn't gonna show anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still hadn't realized that there was a desire there at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wasn't gonna admit it if there was. So we sat through the meeting, and I was just like, this is different. And when we left the meeting, it was just kind of thinking about it, and we went to Dan and Jean's house, and when we walked in the doors, this is about midnight.
Okay.
We'd school the next day. Ellie had homework, Ellie Genda had homework, and I didn't think we were gonna stay that late. So I was like, whatever, I'll come. And we walked in the doors, and when we walked in, Jean said, okay guys, all we do in this house is pray. I was like, oh great, come on, what have I got myself into, right? And I looked over at Ellie, because me and Ellie were really good friends before he got saved.
Okay.
And we still are, but like, he had just changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's true, that's all they do here, that's all they do is pray.
That's true.
I was like, come on, why am I here? And so we sat down on the couches and just random talk for a while, and then when Jean sat down, he's like, okay, we're just gonna tell some testimonies tonight. And he went around and asked everybody in the room their testimony. And I was the last one. When he came to me, I was like, well, I'm not saved, everyone here knows that. And he just said to me, he's like, I didn't know that. And I was like, whatever. So, but just because I said I wasn't saved, I got preached to for 2 hours about why, like, the dangers of not being saved and stuff. And I'd heard it all before.
Sure.
But just how everything was happening right in that day,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of like hit me that I'd never talked to Jean before.
Okay.
I'd never talked to, like, I never knew Dan or Gabe before the meetings. So just them, like, if my friends had talked to me, I would have just told them to shut up.
Right.
But because it was people I didn't know, it was like, this is weird. Why do they care what happens to me? So that's what really hit me.
Mm.
And like, a lot of stuff that was said that night, like some random, like, dumb things were holding me back from committing myself to God.
Okay.
So they were trying to, like, get me just to open up a little bit more, but I wasn't. I was just kind of, I don't want this. But there was that little desire. It's like, what's different about you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I went away from there thinking of, like, all that had been said in that 2 hours that I had been bashed. And so,
Personally.
yeah. We as we walked away, me and Ellie were talking. He's like, that was just brutal. God just used him, and he said, how is your spiritual life doing, Joe? You will never reach your full potential unless you commit yourself to God. Why is this happening? I don't want to serve God. I don't want it. It's not my desire. But there was a desire. We are sinners standing in the hand of an angry God. He's not just disappointed with our sin, but we are sinners standing in the hand of an angry God. But there is a difference. I wanted to go. It's like, is there a change?
Glorious.
Definitely a change.